terms of a sports game or something, whereas someone is privy, we're suddenly privy to only part of the picture based on a random sampling, so therefore we might be able to act upon it. Why would we not want the entire comprehensive report before we make any kind of decision? It almost sounds like we're setting ourselves up to help feed the propaganda machine that's already been in place by having some sort of little preview to something that was done completely unscientifically based on some sort of random sampling. This just doesn't feel right in any form or fashion to move forward in this manner.
Ms. Smith.
Yes. First, responding to Ms. Vaughn on why we would not want to wait for a comprehensive report, I think we need to go back to the question of what our purpose is here. And certainly my purpose as a council member is to obtain information that can allow us to do the best possible job of governing this city. And that means dealing with the future, trying to get information that will help our staff do the best possible job. And the sooner we get that information, the better I believe they can do their job. I'm looking for management recommendations, and I get the sense that some folks are perhaps looking for something like a doctoral dissertation on the innards of the police department, and that's probably interesting, but I don't think that we need that to provide the kind of information that our staff needs to do the right job on behalf of this city. So I would like some feedback as soon as possible, rather than waiting until perhaps Halloween before we get the kind of information we need to help move forward in a positive direction. Along those lines, I'd like to ask Mr. Callison if you'd consider an amendment to your proposed amendment to include.
That's not that.
Okay.
That's out of order. You can't do that.
Okay. Can I ask whether he would consider this within the frame of his amendment to include with the snapshot any other information from the work that MTAS has already done in looking at administrative policies and turnover, as well as a snapshot of results from the interviews, whether you would consider that as part of the scope of things that they might provide in a snapshot, or whether you just want it on the original 20 interviews.
I have no problem adding any additional information, but
Mr. Callison.
I think the purpose is, and I'm surprised that we're hearing, for lack of a better term, pushback on getting something quickly, since we were talking before about putting the chief on leave without pay because this was such a serious thing and had to be taken care of immediately. I think the snapshot gives us an opportunity to get some feedback from our consultants immediately if there's an issue that needs to be taken care of as soon as possible. That's the reason to do it. If we don't care, then we can vote against this and we can wait till the end of the whole report comes out and decide what we want to do.
Ms. Baldwin.
This is a serious issue, and if we really took it seriously, we would have gone about this in a more logical fashion. The logical progression of events would have been to say, okay, let's define what we want to do, what we want to investigate. Okay, let's go out for proposal. Okay, let's choose the right person for the job. Instead, we went about it completely backwards. As far as our purpose here, Ms. Smith, maybe that's why we have the issues that we have. First meeting we had on this subject in February, we agreed unanimously to investigate the issues that were brought to light. My purpose is to determine the root problems behind the concerns shared with us by many. We've had many, many serious concerns shared with us that have played out in the turnover rate. So if we're not on the same page about what it is we're really trying to do, it's no wonder that we are back at square one and where we are tonight.
Other comments or discussion by council before I call on our citizens for their comments. All right, Ms. Mansfield, you're first. Oh, Mr. Mansfield, she defers to you, sir.
Thank you. I'm this country boy, and I don't have a PhD behind my name, but seems like if you take a random sampling of 20 people, you could come out with a preliminary report that says Chief Coggy's best thing since sliced bread. Or you could run into 20 other people that say it's the worst thing since mad cow disease. And then you all of a sudden jump in and start taking action on that, and then you wait till the final report, and it's 180 degrees from what the initial one is. I just think it's kind of dangerous and not fair to anyone, not to the chief or anybody else.
Thank you, Mr. Mansfield. Ms. Garland.
Thank you. Ann Garcia Garland, 120 Outer Drive. I'm still disappointed that when we got a proposal from MTAS that it contained no rationale for our elucidation about this random sample. We've still had no public evidence to validate the suitability of MTAS to do an actual investigation. And the very fact that October 15th is proposed as an end time to what is not a huge interviewing process says to me that this is not MTAS's line of work. They have other things they have to be doing. That's why it will take that long for them to free up enough time to do it. And that we are not considering professional investigators who could do it in a much more professional manner. And I'm also concerned that I'm concerned about this 20 random, because I'm concerned that it would be used to set an agenda for interviews, and that the officers would not be allowed to just speak freely to the interviewer about everything that concerns them, instead of responding to a set of questions.
Thank you, Ms. Garland. Mr. Hart.
Name's Lynn Hart. I live 201 West Southwood Lane, Oak Ridge, Tennessee. I made some remarks I wrote down. I'm not sure that I'm going to say it all, but I promise you it won't take more than 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
2 minutes and 30 seconds.
2 minutes and 30
All right.
seconds. Let me start by saying that I've lived in this community for over 68 years. My life has been and is invested in this community. However, I'm really disappointed in the continuous actions by council regarding this current police department and the allegations by council member that's pulling our city down. Firsthand, I know what it's like when a new kid on the block comes in to take over a department. There are frustrations, there are deadbeats, there are those who are jealous because they did not get offered a position or promotion, and what it's like to change the status quo to try to improve the overall effectiveness of the group. But there are some folks who don't like change. That's just the way it is. But perhaps they were doing a poor job performing before. I don't know. But here we are considering spending taxpayer money, time, productive time that you folks have already spent on this issue for the last 3 or 4 months. While precious time that council could be spending on how to continue to make this town what it should be. This city is now on the edge of making a huge turnaround. You know that, and I know that. I see it every day. Bigger than perhaps what it's been for the last 20 years. Please focus on the future. I personally don't approve of spending taxpayer money on what I call a witch hunt, only because a few employees are disgruntled in the police department. Let these issues work themselves out as it should be. I'm happy with the department based on what I see every day, and I'm in this town on the streets all over every day. And I can't tell you how pleased I am to see what a great improvement that I've seen in the last 3 or 4 years. My request, bottom line, is to you to dispose of the MTAS review and get on about more important business for this city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Yes, sir.
Happy 113 Culver Street, Oak Ridge. I was going to read an email sent to myself today. Mayor and council, I find it very troubling that members of our elected city council acted on an anonymous email. Anyone, even one who is not a police officer, could have sent the email to start trouble for someone. This time, it's the chief. Next time, who knows, maybe it'll be one of you. This has caused how much in meetings, gas, lawyers, phone calls, investigators, overtime, taking policemen away from their jobs to attend meetings. Reputations down the drain, city in an uproar, all over an anonymous email. Any person could write an email by any officer, any city council, make up anything they want, and send it from a Gmail account and stir up trouble. Then that person can sit back and watch it all happen. Except that person hasn't sit back, because Bobby Hill was talking several of these meetings. The city would act on it and cost everyone money without even knowing if the accusations are facts or not. What does that say about the capabilities of those representing our city? How much has this cost so far? How much more are you willing to spend of precious dollars, all started by an anonymous email? How much more? I might add, regardless of what one council person says, the turnover rate has improved. Not a lot has improved under Chief Agaki than it was under Chief Beams. Crime is down. I think you should give the man a raise.
Thank you. Ms. Mansfield?
My name is Myra Mansfield, and I live at 103 Hendricks Drive. First of all, I want to defend the police officers who were just falsely accused by Mr. Hart of making up lies on the chief because they didn't get a promotion. That's been used against my husband, who never tried to get a promotion to be the chief because he liked being a lieutenant where he could stay in touch with the men on the streets. You'd lose that when you go to the upper levels. And I want to ask you to stop using the word logic, because our proper process of government is that you would have asked for requests for proposals for this, and you did not do that. You went about this in a completely illogical way, and you just continue to do that and throw out all kinds of things, such as Ms. Smith trying to throw in there a action on the part of the city manager after you get your preliminary thing. That's illogical. I would also like to ask you to consider how you threw out the free card, Ms. Smith and Mr. Callison and maybe some others. Early in this situation, you kept throwing the free card. Oh, let's use MTAS for free. They're free, they're free, they're free. The public lined up, I don't know how many dozens of people, maybe hundreds, if I go back and count on the video, have come in here and asked you to do this the right way and asked for proposals, and now you are refusing to go back and look at your free card and say, oh, we should play this free card, we should stick with the free card, and you want to throw around $20-some thousand without asking for any other organizations to come and say what they can do for us to save money. Please stop saying we're going to save money by MTAS credit us with 60 hours, which they already gave us free, and act like this $3,700 for personnel to handle this is going to save money when you're still sitting here. You've already voted to spend $20,000. Okay, so I would really appreciate it if we could find a way to deal with this in a way the public can trust you, Mr. Callison, Mr. Hensley, Ms. Smith, Mr. Gooch, Mr. Hope, Ms. Bond, and Mr. Chin. Please, use integrity.
Ms. Jones?
I just want to make 2 points. One is with regard to
There you go. Thank you.
okay, with regard to random sampling.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we're not talking about an assembly line. and examining a product going along on the assembly line. We're talking about human beings, each of whom has grievances or grief which has to be heard. I realize you've already decided to interview everybody, and I don't see the random sampling that's adding to the process. I know Ms. Smith thinks it would speed things up, but two other speakers have said it might prejudice what the remaining officers are asked. And so I would request, so that's my first point, that we're not talking about an assembly line inspection. The second point is that $26,000 is not that much money. It's less than $1 per person in the city. And to make the point, I'm going to hand the clerk $2 for my husband and me to contribute to the $26,000. If MTAS is going to do it, then that's not a bad price. I myself, being a social scientist, would prefer that social scientists were involved in doing the survey, as in the sociology department at UT or the department of social, or the School of Social Work. But I am very happy that you are going to interview everybody, and it's taking more time. To me, seems that's the way it is. I don't think it needs to take an hour per person. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones.
That's for Charles and me.
All right. Mr. Lee.
Joseph Lee, 99 East Pasadena Road, Oak Ridge, Tennessee. I think there's a lot of integrity up here on the bench. I commend you all for your willingness to serve, and those that say otherwise, I disagree completely. I don't always agree with every one of you on everything, but that's all part of the fun. I'm having a great time. I don't have any preference about how you go about and do this, but let's just wrap this up. Let's get this done. We have burned down an unknown amount of staff time and energy in this effort, and we still don't know who Bobby Hill is. I'd love to know who Bobby Hill is. If his grievances are so awful, then put your name on it. But anyway, whatever y'all want to do with this evening, I'm all for it. Let's just vote and move on. Let's get back to work. Like my friend here, Mr. Hart says, we're we got a lot of things that we need to focus on, and this really isn't it. And but I appreciate you dealing with it, and thanks again.
Ms. Bond.
This didn't start because of an anonymous email. And any attempts to try to minimalize the concerns that have been shared with us are really troubling, very troubling. This started because Officer Bayless simply wanted to go somewhere else. And he did the right thing. He tendered his resignation, and he was retaliated against. And that was substantiated by the city manager's decision to overturn the chief of police's decision. That is what started this. And since then, we have heard from seven different former officers and countless individuals crying out for us to listen and do something about the problems in our police department. 34 of 76 people have left. 5 in the last 4 months, 2 in the last 2 weeks. To sit up here and say that there's not a problem and things are great in Oak Ridge if we would just get this over with is disingenuous, and it is really, it's beyond words that we would try treat our officers and their families and their concerns in this manner.
All right, further comments. We are on Mr. Callison's amendment to the primary amendment. And Mr. Callison's amendment, would that be that the consultants create a snapshot report based upon the random interviews? And we will we'll go to the board. Ayes 3, nays 4. That amendment fails. We're now on the primary amendment. Mr. Clerk, would you read the primary amendment that I submitted, please?
Give me just one moment to scroll up.
Sure.
The primary amendment, you had indicated that a substitution of 20 interviews shall be conducted from a pool of current and former employees, randomly selected and randomly interviewed by members of MTAS as a substitution for paragraph 5.
That is correct. All right, we'll go to the board. Ayes 4, nays 3. The amendment is adopted. Are there further amendments or further matters related to the resolution before us as amended? No, actually, that I included the language of the third one in the deletion of number 5. Ms. Smith.
Yes, just request clarification from fellow council members. Since the request for a snapshot report from MTAS was deleted, does that mean that we're going to ask that MTAS keep us all in the dark until they're completed with the report, or would we still retain the possibility of receiving interim progress reports from MTAS? What's your sense?
At this point, Ms. Smith, I do not see us receiving interim reports. Again, until the entire interview process is completed, they will not be beginning to work on their written report. They will be doing the report that will include the interview process as well as the review of policies and procedures. At least that's my understanding. Mr. Chen?
Yes, just to be clear here, if I understand correctly, the next thing that we're going to do is vote on the Resolution A to have MTAS do this report for $22,700. And if that passes, the meeting's over. If that doesn't pass, then we'll move on to Resolution B and C to look at those. I'm not going to support Resolution A, not because I don't think we need to move on with this. I really want to move on with this whole process. But the resolution that's before us is not going to be complete until sometime in October. I think there's someone out there that can do this in a more timely manner. And I think we need to go out for requests for proposals, get someone in here to look at this, give us a proposal. We've already had one submitted to us unsolicited for $6,000 to do it in a lot shorter time period. So with that said, I'm not going to support Resolution A. And just to be clear to everyone in the audience and on council, I do want to move along with this. I think we need to figure out if there's a problem. I don't know if there's a problem with the police force. I don't know if there's a problem with the morale or the turnover, but I do think we need to clear this up fast. And waiting until October to hear the results of this report, to me, I think we can do better than that. So that said, I'm not going to support Resolution A.
Ms. Bowman?
In addition to some of the reasons that Mr. Chen mentioned, I won't be supporting it either. I'd like to read Tennessee Code Annotated 49-9-407 defines the purpose of MTAS. As a part of the Institute for Public Service, the Municipal Technical Advisory Service exists to provide studies and research in municipal government publications and educational conferences, and to furnish technical, consultative, and field services to municipalities of the state in problems relating to fiscal administration, accounting, tax assessment and collection, law enforcement, improvements in public works, and in any and all matters relating to municipal government. This program shall be carried on in cooperation with and with the advice of municipalities in the state acting through the Tennessee Municipal League and its board of directors, which is recognized as their official agency of instrumentality. MTAS, I have maintained from the beginning, is a conflict of interest. This council gives $1.2 million, not bid, unbid, waived bids, to TML every single year. And part of the purpose of that money is for legal defense. MTAS is a subsidiary of TML. There is a definitive conflict of interest in using them. Furthermore, by definition of what they are, by their own admission, they are not qualified to investigate matters of this nature. You said they've done 50 type reviews. We've not seen one. We've asked, many people have asked for samples of their work. We've not seen a single sample of their work. They don't do this. This is not up their alley. I won't support it.
Other comments? I would say, just in response, Ms. Vaughn, I think it's incorrect to refer to MTAS as a subsidiary of TML. They are a part of the University of Tennessee. So on that point, we simply have a disagreement. Ms. Smith?
Yeah,